Hello everyone, it's Vince signing in again, and welcome back to my reading of the Sonic.Exe Remake, the official Sonic.Exe Remake to clarify. A number of changes here. As you can see, I'm not using the document as before, and before I did that so I can keep track of which page I was on, but when I saw that it was actually linked on the Troll Pasta Wiki, I thought it would be a little bit better to just have it here and keep track, basically the old-fashioned way. I mean, it is comedic to me to be able to actually list the number of pages that there are, but I don't know, it's not really all that necessary. Also, I am not going to have my webcam anymore because I don't know, I don't think I really need to be on camera, and it's something that I think partially distracts me from what I should be really focusing on when I'm trying to make something in the way of a humorous reaction on camera, and it's not really necessary. You're here to listen to the story and read the story and digest what's here, not to watch me make faces like a spastic. But other notes, yeah, a shadow. I think it was Shadowfire that brought to my attention, like, oh well, you can, or he. I don't know if you could call it a criticism. It was more of a suggestion that oh, why don't you just edit in the music instead of playing it while you're recording? And to answer that question here now is because I'm incredibly lazy, and I am really sorry if the very haphazard way I do these videos is not to your liking. I really do mean that. I want to get in the habit of making better and better produced videos, and I promise at some point I will. But for this series, I'm still going to kind of go with what I'm comfortable with. Although I will go back to probably making like crappy pasta videos in the style of the ones I've made before, where they were much more edited and whatnot. But in any case, we're back in the story, and to give a quick recap, okay, what happened before was that Tom, there's been some changes from the original story. Tom, who lives on a college campus with his best friend since he had known him since high school, has not seen his friend in 3 weeks. Didn't think to ask anyone about it, and the few times where he did inquire about it, or at the very least he, I guess, heard offhand comments about it, most people who his friend would normally associate with did not know where he went and had no contact with him whatsoever. And once again, Tom didn't see any problem with this. He's perfectly normal. Tom goes down after 3 weeks and knocks on his door, doesn't get a response, and then immediately goes back and finds a package on his doorstep from his friend who has been dead for some time now in that room. And somehow he didn't, he just somehow managed to not smell the rotting body on the other side when the smell was so strong that apparently, people have been smelling it all around. I understand they said it was from the ventilation system of the next door, but a rotting body is quite easy to, I don't know, like, you can smell rotted garbage and, like, coming from that distance. I'm just saying. And he wasn't that far from the door from what I know. And, so detectives come on the case. They drag him in to look at his friend's decaying body, decayed and mutilated because his jaw has been ripped off and his innards have been tugged at. They show him that for no real reason, probably traumatize him for life. And the reasoning for doing it, as we'll probably see later on, is that, well, oh, you're the only lead, when all they know of him is that he was a friend of one of the murder victims. And considering the fact that this has been a string of killings that are, in terms of the chosen victims, not really much has been made in the way of a connection in terms of their interpersonal relationships. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense that this is the first instance where the person killed doesn't have a loved one or any friends or family that would have any concern in this case. They act like it's a weird thing or it's a different thing that Tom just happens to be a part of the, one person who's a friend of the victim. So, I mean, there are a number of factors that could go into why they could want to bring him along so they can interrogate him, to ask him questions, to get a good idea of where Kyle's headspace was at, to see if that has anything to do with why he was targeted, or the fact that Tom again received a package from his friend despite him being deaf for some time and literally living one floor beneath him on a college campus and be like 10 minutes away. The frantic handwriting of the note that was placed in the package that indicates that something was happening to Kyle while he was basically writing it down, and it might have something to do with his disappearance and death and a murder, but never brings that up. They just decide to bring him along because they can sense the main character, that aroma wafting off of him. But again, I'm kind of dribbling on right now. So now Tom's playing the game, spooky shit's happening. Now let's continue. What's wrong, buddy? Don't you like playing with me? Tails furiously shook his head in refusal. Tears streaming down his face as he sat there looking at the doll head. The doll head giggled, a hint of a clown-like guffaw under that child's giggle as it swayed its head more. It then responded in a condescendingly sing-song kind of voice, a much more noticeably audible growl on the last word as it stared down at him. Liar, liar, pants on fire! Suddenly, something erupted from the ground and wrapped itself around Tails' neck. The fox yelped in pain, and Tom realized that it was barbed wire. Here we go. Tails clawed desperately at his own neck to remove the wire as it tightly wrapped around it, his neck starting to bleed as he choked and cried. While this was going on, fire began to spread around him until he was gulped in it. Tom could do nothing but watch as the poor fox child writhed and screamed in the flames. He watched as Tails' fur began to blacken and burn, and his eyes becoming bloodshot, his neck bleeding as he screamed in agony and terror. Okay, I had done a recording of this some time ago, and I had to draw it out to make make space, and for other reasons, but whatever. And one of the complaints that I had and I issued here kind of rings true, or it was a comparison more than anything else, is that JC the Hyena doesn't seem to understand that when you write a story like this, it is impossible. It is impossible for the audience to get invested in the plight of a fictional character. And when I say that, I'm not saying that it's not impossible to get invested in the fictional character in a story. That's different. Right now, we're reading, the characters that we're reading are all fictional, and you get the point. The point I'm trying to make is that within the realm of this game, the story's universe, this is just a game he's playing. And now I understand it's more than that in this from his perspective, but from my perspective, I don't give a shit because it's still a bunch of pixels on a screen. Now, you compare something like this to Ben Drowned, by Joel Usable, and while that had some emphasis on kind of morbid imagery and the main character or the avatar being tortured to some degree, it wasn't, the horror from that didn't come from what was happening to the avatar. It came from the subtext of what was happening to him, along with the messages that were trying to be conveyed by the entity known as Ben. All of that, like I said, like the game in of itself was not the element used to drag sympathy and horror through people. It was just a backdrop to kind of springboard a lot of ideas off of. And the fact that it was really Ben Drowned seemed more coincidental, and it came off as less that Ben was trying to frighten and psychologically fuck with Joe Usable, and more that Ben was trying to convey a message to him in the only way that he could basically work around to do so. Like there's an in-universe reason for Ben doing the weird shit that he does within the game. And here it's that Sonic.Exe is a spooky, scary skeleton who likes to torture people and make them feel all scared. Like, if I were to see this and I was playing a ROM hack, I wouldn't really be scared. I'd be thinking of something along the lines of, whoever played this had a lot of time on their hands. I might be a little bit grossed out if I got into too much detail, but that's it. Again, this is one of those things where the character is not thinking a way a real person would. Now, there might be some people that will be off-put by this, like, you know, that someone would go to all this effort to make a game this detailed and to really darken a series that has been, for the most part, relatively lighthearted. But it's not going to cross into the realm where they feel horrified. Now, JC has improved to some degree, but because he is acknowledged within the story at some point that what he is feeling right now, like as he's playing the game, is not normal. It's not normal to feel, you know, this pressing feeling of danger, even though it's just a game. And I'm not saying that it's not normal to be frightened by a horror game, but it isn't normal to feel as though your very life is in danger. And that's what Joe Usable did in Ben Drown, and it was supposed to indicate that there was more to this relatively harmless looking game that meet the eye. And the same thing is supposed to apply here. But the difference between Ben Drown and this story is that Ben Drown gradually worked its way up to that boiling point where we discover what's happening. And here, you start the story off with friend violently murdered, his jaw ripped open, his intestines leaking out of place, his blood all over the place, his body is rotted, and there is no sense of escalation here. Like, shit that's happening right now, as it's described, should be shit that's reserved for later on in the story when shit starts to really get real. And instead, it's dropped near the beginning, and really, you have to ask yourself, where can you go from here? I mean, compare this to another story like Dogscape. Dogscape is a story that has a consistent weird tone. There's no real sense of escalation in terms of the stories presented, but that's what adds to the chilling factor of it, is that it's basically recounting things in a very dry, almost post-apocalyptic tone, and is basically recounting events as they happen within the story. And here, it's not really going for that tone. It's supposed to be like I guess what you would assume is a murder mystery / horror. And like, again, with a murder mystery, I don't know. Like, this isn't working. There needs to be, rising action, climax, falling action. And it needs to adhere to that kind of structure, or else you risk alienating people right off the bat, because once you start off too hot, or you start off too, like, with all that shit in the beginning, you don't really have anywhere else to go from there. But anyway, let's continue. Tom then screamed as a doll head suddenly creeped up from the side of the screen dangerously close, obscuring what was happening to Tails and looking directly at him. He could see the smile was becoming more real, and opening up to show those huge fangs. The tiny dots for eyes were growing in size and forming cracks on the doll's face, and 2 red dots began to glow from within the blackness of the widening eyes. That horrifying clown laugh was present with screaming, even though the doll's lips didn't move. Again, you really shouldn't have had the clown laugh at all described, because even within I understand the idea is to, like, you're trying to fix the problem where describing the laugh as the Kefka laugh was the fact that it was really stupid and took people out of the story, but then you changed it with something that also makes no sense. And because clowns don't really have a distinctive laugh. I mean, and generally speaking, some clowns don't even laugh at all. I know this because I'm friends with a lot of clowns. Tom had enough. This was way too much. He immediately slammed his finger on the power button and shut his computer off. A ringing silence at his screen as the screen went black. You could just press Control Alt Delete and end task. I'm just saying. Tom sat there panting, drenched in sweat. He could still hear the creature's laughter and Tails screaming in his head for ebbing away. Ebbing? What the fuck, Kyle? Tom sputtered in disbelief. What kind of game did Kyle buy? This was clearly not a game approved by Sega. Sure, they threw the creepy message in the Sonic CD to scare away hackers, but there was no way they would develop a game like this, let alone release it to the public. Tom was convinced that the creature he saw in the game was not Sonic at all, not just by its behavior, but also by how the model looked, and how it started to look more monstrous, and the doll head he saw minutes before Tails got incinerated. Everything about Sonic in the game was completely wrong. It had to have been made by Sega, as someone other than Sega, because there was no possible way that that thing actually talked to Tom, could there? Those two thoughts do not connect to one another. Okay, so what you are suggesting is, because Sonic talked to the player directly, that means that it could not have been made by Sega. That's essentially what you're saying, and you could easily disprove that by playing the only actually good Sonic 3D game that came out not too long ago in solid colors. Tom runned his hand. God damn it, JC. Ran his hands down his face with a long sigh, feeling sleep overriding his stress over what just transpired. It's just some freaky fan game. It's gotta be, he said to himself. Deciding to deal with it in the morning, Tom got up from his desk and went straight to bed, not even bothering to close his laptop or clean his mess. Tomorrow, what mess? Was there a mess made? Whatever. Tomorrow he would talk to his friends about the game and maybe continue playing it. Hoping to shake off the feeling of dread and uncertainty, Tom slowly drifted to sleep. Maybe it was made by some asshat who hated Sega, Mike reasoned as he, Tom, Vicky, and Roger had lunch together the next day. I mean, I can name quite a few people who did not like some of the more recent Sonic games. What does that have to do with anything? I mean, wait a minute. Are you suggesting that hating Sega makes you an asshat? Okay. I don't know. Maybe that's just me interpreting it differently. God, I hope so. Tom muttered as he ate his nachos. What kind of what do college dorms? You know, do they serve nachos at campuses? Maybe they do. I don't know. In memory of seeing Tails' body get burned alive, and then that Sonic doll head's horrid smile was still fresh in his mind. I will say this though: whoever made this game has one hell of an imagination. Ryder drank his soup and asked, "Are you gonna play more of it later? Maybe we'll watch you play it just to see what it's all about." Oh no, Vicky interrupted. I am not gonna watch you guys play a game where Sonic is killing his best friends and shit. That's not like him at all. You are the most cringy person in existence, man. I hope you get run over by a fucking Zamboni. That's just a thing though, Vic, Tom explained. I don't know if that character really was Sonic. Even for a character model, his design looked really weird. Even for a what is that supposed to mean? Even for a character... there's no such thing as a weird character model? You need to pick how you phrase things. You have to... I don't know. He looked at his nachos as he continued eating, vividly remembering how the creature transformed. It's like it was something pretending to be him. Like the Sonic I saw was just some kind of costume for the character was roaming around in. Mike chuckled. What is he? Some kind of yandere Sonic fan of Sonic's? Looks like Amy's got some competition. Vicky scoffed. Oh please, like Amy ever had a chance with Sonic. Quite frankly, I think Fiona's a better choice for Sonic. Mike looked at his girlfriend with a quizzical look. Who? This made Tom and Roger stifle laugh. Vicky groaned. One of these days, I gotta introduce you to the Archie comics, Mike. I hate you passionately. I hate you with every tired muscle in my body. If you were to die tomorrow, I wouldn't say that the world would be made a better place because your existence is so minute and worthless to everyone around you that it'll be like you had never existed. The only thing that would happen is that they would have to scratch your name off the fucking attendance sheet whenever they start class. That's basically it. I hate you that much, Vicky. And if I could, I'd go back in time and kick your mother in the ovaries so she'll never have you. Okay, that was really fucked up. I'm sorry. But seriously, these characters are not really endearing themselves to me. That's the point I was trying to make. Before anyone could continue with the conversation, a loud scream broke out somewhere in the cafeteria. Tom, his friends, and pretty much everyone else in the cafeteria spun their heads looking around for who was screaming in terror. Then Tom saw her. Brunette cheerleader Rachel Faulkner bursted into tears in the cafeteria, sobbing hysterically for help until she collapsed on the ground. One of the teachers present in the cafeteria, an elderly man of Japanese origin, because that's a very necessary detail there, rushed into her to help her up. Murmurs and whispers were all around as everyone watched the teacher try to calm Rachel down. What's wrong? What's wrong, Mrs. Faulkner? Tom got up with his friends as they pushed through the crowd to see what was going on. Tom saw Rachel as the teacher tried to comfort her. Rachel was in tears and was struggling to form speech in her hysteria. It's Mrs. Wilkinson, Rachel sobbed. She's dead. She's dead. You are dead. Tom's brain jammed for a moment as gasps and shock and more frantic whispers began to escalate. The Japanese teacher looked quite shocked himself. Miss Wilkinson was the new teacher for English, having applied for the job 2 days after Kyle disappeared. She was quite she was quite a young woman that got along with nearly everybody. I'm gonna pause the recording real quick. I need to put the music back on. Excuse me. There we go. Where were we? Tom jammed for a moment, blah blah blah. New English teacher, very kind, nearly nice, nearly everybody. Dead? The teacher asked, his voice shaking. Are you sure, my dear? Yes, I saw her. Her mouth. Rachel sputtered. Tom's jaw dropped the minute he heard mouth. No, could it be? That's right. It's all right. The teacher desperately told Rachel before addressing the cafeteria. All of you, return to your dormitories. Somebody get the principal. We need to call the police. All the students were escorted straight to their dormitories. Tom had to bid his friends farewell during the commotion and immediately pulled out his phone, searched through his contacts until he found Detective Green's number and dialed it. As he walked down the hall, he waited until Green answered. Hey Tom, what's up? Green asked. Detective Green, there's been another murder. It's the same as everyone else, he explained as he entered his room, closing the door behind him. Wait, seriously? Green asked quietly, a hint of fear in his voice. Yes, Tom confirmed. A girl named Ranger just came into the cafeteria screaming about the body she found. The college is calling for your station right now. I see, Green muttered. Alright, I'm on my way over there. I already know where your room is, so I'll pick you up there and we can check it out, okay? Why? Wait, why? Okay, I can understand the really weird and kind of jumbled reasoning for showing him the body of a fucking Kyle because that was his best friend. So I guess in some twisted way, like, oh, let me show it to the one person that cares about him the most, or maybe he has information on him. This is just one random person who happens to be like, why are they letting Tom work with them on this case? Like, I really want to know what's the reasoning behind that. It would make more sense because right now in this like Tom doesn't seem to be all that in the know about who Mrs. Wilkinson is. By his description, she didn't seem to have much of a character or much of a presence in his life in comparison to Kyle. So wouldn't it make sense to interview like her family or have the teachers work with this fucking police station? Because I understand the reason. I know what the real reason is because that Tom's the main character, but still, I'm trying to think of ways that you would. I can't think of a way that you could justify adding him to this case for no reason. I'm gonna take a sip of my coffee. Delicious. Alright, see you then, Tom said. With that, he hung up and sat down looking at the ceiling, trying to process what was going on. Has Mrs. Wilkinson really been murdered? Had Kyle's killer really returned to the college to look for another target? Well, who's to say he even left? Again, this is one of those instances where it really doesn't feel like JC knows how to write realistic characters. Because if that shit went down on a college campus when someone was violently murdered, they would lock that shit down. Like, I don't know, like police will be there 24/7 to investigate, and just to see if the killer was still around. Maybe one of the students is a killer, and they basically use the college as a base of operations for all they know. They will probably make that assumption, seeing as how they don't have any leads. Like there's also the school would probably, after the first instance, be encouraging students to not walk alone at night and to report anything suspicious that they see it. And we didn't see any instance where the staff was telling them to do that or trying to instruct them on how to stay safe at night. Again, this is a complete idiot plot, and I'm not, I don't want to come suggest that all of this could be averted by simply doing those things I said, because chances are those people would have been killed either way. But I don't know, like it feels like they could have gotten to the bottom of this much quicker if they had acted like normal, rational people. If so, why? Why this college of all places? Tom thought about what Green said, that the killer had just been a psychopath. He tried to imagine the murderer, an insane individual that got his thrills from randomly killing people he wants, and somehow giving the cops a slip every step of the way up until now. Tom shivered at the thought as he tried to take his mind off the killer by turning to his laptop, turning his laptop open and its screen black. Just as he left it last night, he got up and turned his laptop on, but when he did, he spotted two things. The first was that the X icon on his screen, he was sure that it was slightly bigger than the last time he saw it. The next was his battery. The battery was originally a good 95% when he played it the first night, but now it was at 36%. This confused Tom because a computer battery was not supposed to go down when the computer was turned off. However, he assumed that it was just a minor fluke and paid it no mind. This computer program that you played somehow drains that big a chunk of your fucking battery life, then I don't know, like I would not keep it on my fucking computer. Uninstall it. Again, not thinking like someone with an actual brain. And if your friends come and like, oh, what happened to the game? I was like, oh well, I don't know, like if something's up with it, like it actually was very draining. Like my computer couldn't process it all the way or something, or some shit like that. I don't know. Turning his laptop off. I'm not gonna act like I know anything about computers or how they work. To be honest, I'm a fucking less than a layman when it comes to technology. Turning his laptop off, he looked at Kyle's, still at 11%, like he left it. So he decided to unplug his charger from his laptop and plug it into Kyle's to charge it. After that, he got up and turned on the TV to watch some anime. While he waited for Green to show up. JC, I really don't hope that you lay awake at night wondering why people don't take you seriously. Because I don't know. I just cringe internally when I read some of these about when these characters are going about their day-to-day lives. Half an hour later, a knock on Tom's door prompted him to get up and answer it. To his relief, it was Green and his sister Sarah. They're both, their last name is Green. Why do you only address one by the last name and not the other? It's a good thing you called me, Tom, Derek said, as he, Tom, Sarah, walked to the crime scene. If the college called you first, it would have taken a while for the cops to issue a warrant. Believe me, I want to see this guy caught just as much as you do, Tom said flatly. He's already taken Kyle. The last thing I want is for any of my other friends getting killed. We're welcome to participate in the investigation if you wish, Tom. Of course, you're going to have to stay out of our way sometimes for your own safety. Oh, but, here's, just to make sure you're safe, civilian, here's a gun and a license to kill. Oh, and, I don't know, here's some liquor, too. Why not? Let's just go all in. Let's just give civilians absolute authority over every single thing in the fact. Fuck it, Tom. You're the president now. Here's the nuclear launch codes and all that. Sarah explained as they took a turn. I don't know. In the world of this fucking story, I bet that's how it works. Like you could just, I don't know, like the fucking government, like a government official goes to a random place, puts a blindfold on, spins around in a circle, and then whoever he's pointing to when he takes a blindfold off, that's the new president. Sarah explained as they took a turn. Normally we don't allow citizens to get involved, but we're very low in leads, as you already know. Again, yeah, and that doesn't actually address why you're letting this civilian on the case, because he has no information, to your knowledge, because he does have information that would be beneficial to you, but he's too stupid to address it, or to bring it up, or to bring it to your attention. As far as they know, he knows nothing. He has no leads either. He is not a lead. It makes more sense to have the last person who talked to the teacher, like, essentially around to ask questions, or members of staff. But no, they just bring on this one guy because, again, he emits main character pheromones. Yeah, Derek said. You look like a smart kid. Okay. You look like a smart kid, so as of right now, you're only lead on this situation. They eventually reached a crime scene, which was the classroom Miss Wilkinson taught English in. Before any of them could enter, however, a cop stopped them. Hold it right there, Green. The cop said, putting a hand up. Tom got a good look at the officer, dressed in a typical police uniform. He didn't look like a very friendly-looking cop. He seemed a bit older than Green, red-haired and sharp-faced, pointed nose, and had a bit of a sneering grin on his face, like, "Oh, he's a straw man, so the audience can hate him because Jason only knows how to write in tropes and stereotypes." Tom could see the prominent lines on the con's face. "This is a crime scene, not a daycare center, and that kid can't come in here, Dawson," he said rather offhandedly. "I'm aware of that, Officer Craven," Green said steadily, looking at the cop with obvious annoyance in his eyes. "However, he's with me. He's a witness to the last victim, and because you ain't got any leads, he's basically all you got, huh?" Officer Craven interrupted and chuckled. "Are you so really desperate to catching this guy that you gotta escape? The scrape on the bottom of the barrel or something, Green?" Tom saw Derek's fist clench. It became clear to Tom that the conversation in Green and this cop did not see eye to eye. From the conversation, excuse me. "Look here, Dawson. Here's some advice," Craven continued, looking at Tom now, his smug grin showing more. "You don't want to get involved with this guy. He thinks he's some sort of hero, but the truth is he's just some rookie on a wild goose chase." Tom felt annoyance that Green was feeling. He immediately looked at Craven in the face and coolly, and I bet a pair of sunglasses fell down on his face after he said that line. Well, at least he's out there chasing bad guys instead of sitting around at his desk and knowing everybody around him. You don't know this man? You literally just met him. The fact that he's on the crime scene and he was the first on the crime scene indicates that that is not the case, what you just said. Your attempt at a zinger fell completely flat, and JC's idea of a witty retort is cringeworthy. Craven's smile dropped at that remark because he was so taken aback at the extreme lack of wit on display, and Sarah tried to stifle a giggle at Tom's also tiny penis. And Tom could sense Green was smiling himself, because, I don't know, someone had to. Alright, excuse me, Officer Craven, Derek said as Sarah, Tom, I was about to say Sam and Tara walked past Officer Craven, who was red in the face, hotly looking at the trio. "Who was that guy?" Tom asked Green and Sarah. "Officer Richard Craven," Green answered. "He's been harassing me and Sarah ever since we took this case. A real type A personality that guy. Around the precinct we call him I thought I misread something. Around the precinct we call him Officer Dick." "Oh, I get it, because his first name is Richard, and he's not a nice person, I get it." Sarah then said, "We suspect he's jealous of us trying to solve this case. To him, catching this psychopath is like winning a gold medal at an Olympic sport." Geez, I must have been right on the nose with that remark then. Again, he was the first person there, and he was making sure that people didn't go on the crime scene, so he seemed mildly proactive. In fact, what Sarah just said, the fact that he wants to basically solve this case himself, completely flies against what you said, Tom, because you said that he was just a desk jockey, and a desk jockey wouldn't be so dedicated to finding a dangerous killer for acclaim to the point where he's the first person on the crime scene. Just saying. Your writing is shit, JC. Geez, I must have been right on the note. I don't know. Tom said, looking back at to see Officer Craven back at his post. You have no idea. Don't worry, he's pretty much useless. Anyway, here we go. He gestured towards toward the crime scene. Miss Wilkinson's classroom was, for the most part, intact, though her desk was a mess. All that was on it had been knocked off, and in their stead, lying flat on her back, was Mrs. Wilkinson's, just as Rachel described, and just like Kyle, deathly pale, a look of shock on her face, her mouth wide, caked in blood, her jaw hanging uselessly. Tom's stomach almost turned looking at the poor woman. Seeing her corpse like this reminded him of how Kyle died. Oh, I keep wanting to do the fucking sheriff voice from what was it, Dark Sea 2. Alright, Green began calmly, walking around examining the scene. So this one's more recent than the last one. Judging by the state of things, she died sometime around 10:30 to 11:30 p.m. last night. Okay, Jay-Z and Jay-Z. Yeah, I'm giving this advice to the rapper. No, JC, Mr. Hyena. I have some advice for you, and I'm not gonna hold this against you because I know you're trying to write in something that you're not familiar with. If you cannot write for a concept that you do not understand, then bone up on the concept and then come back to it, or don't write it at all. And what I mean is police terminology, or when it comes to crime novels, how they would determine, you make a determination like that, because you can't just have them say that. Like, I don't know, like, imagine the Sherlock Holmes just said, like, oh, it's just obvious, like, oh, this guy was a killer, or, like, judging by the footprints, this was some blah, 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 blah. Like, if you want me to believe that this guy is supposed to be, like, some kind of ace detective, like, you need to emphasize that by showing his deductive reasoning, and just have him plainly stating that, oh, well, she died around this time, I just know. That's not an example of deductive reasoning. It's just him pulling shit out of his ass. As far as I know, I don't even know if he's correct. I mean, it's not really relevant. It's not going to come back again. But still. What was she doing here? Tom asked, standing next to Sarah as they watched Derek. Like, again, Tom, really useful in the case. Like, he's just doing so much here. Like, I can completely understand why he's here. Most likely preparing to head home, Derek described, pointing to the folder containing today's homework and a purse. She was preparing to leave the room when she was assaulted. Derek knelt down, looking at the books, papers, and computer that were scattered on the floor around the desk. The killer easily overpowered her. She couldn't even put up much of a struggle. He pretty much did this thing in no time flat. Jeebus, Tom whispered as he looked at Wilkinson's corpse. What kind of maniac is capable of such brutality? A freaking animal, that's what, Green answered flatly. But what's weird is that there are no signs of entry or intrusion on the part prior to the death. What? Tom looked at Green in surprise. Like, why is Tom here? I had to really ask again. Why the fuck is he here? He's fucking useless. That's another thing about the victims, Sarah explained. Prior to all their deaths, there haven't been any single sign of entry. The windows and doors weren't open or unlocked. We even scanned for fingerprints. Nothing. Not even on the victims. Wait, seriously? Tom asked, unsure if he heard correctly. You guys saying that this guy just appeared out of nowhere and killed these people without touching him? Well, I mean, we don't want to draw any conclusions yet, Derek responded. Point is, somebody is in fact doing this, as bizarre as it looks. I'm sorry, I was distracted by neighbors outside. There is one other thing, though. Derek motioned to the computer laying on the floor. Its screen black and cracked. In every single one of the murder that we investigated, we've also noticed that the victim's computer is also damaged in some way. Usually with laptops, it's just the screen being damaged and the battery being completely dead. Thinking about it, Tom then inquired, do you think that the killer's destroying computers because they contain something that he didn't want? I'm sorry, the neighbor distracted me. Thinking about it, Tom then inquired, do you think the killer's destroying computers because they contain something that he didn't want known? Green shook his head. No, I don't. I mean, we originally thought that was in fact the case when the first murder, but all these deaths are just random civilians who have no association with one another. Not to mention, when we repaired for the laptops, they appeared to be completely free of any suspicious files. So that theory is, I'm afraid, out the door. Damn, Tom cursed. It really didn't seem like they hit a dead end. A killer had been able to invade people's homes without leaving any signs of entry or, in fact, any trace of its existence. Whoever this murderer was, not only was he a deranged individual, he was also very good at what he was doing. Detective Green, a voice called out. A trio turned to see a cop at the door. The principal's looking for you. He said he needs your help at the assembly. Jeez, Green grumbled. I always hate having to do. I always having to. I always hate having to be part of such announcements. You better head off. You better head back to your dorm room, Tom. Sarah suggested. Tom nodded. All right. And Tom, Derek spoke up before Tom turned to leave. Remember that you're a part of this investigation now. It's up to you to look for anything that you might help. Again, this should be the moment where Tom brings up, "Oh, I had a package from my friend," moments after he was discovered dead. But no, never brings it up, never once. If you find anything, or if anything happens, I'll be sure to come to you right away. You fucking liar! This guy killed Kyle, not taking any chances and letting him kill anyone else. With that, he bid Derek and Sarah farewell and headed straight back to his dorm room. Thoughts of what had transpired swimming through his head like a whirlpool in a deep, deep ocean. Lots of things didn't seem to make sense to Tom. He tried to examine all that he knew so far about the murders. One, the killer had somehow entered the victim's home without leaving any traces of his presence or a break-in. Two, he had been pulling the victim's mouth open to the point of the jaw tearing up. No, Sonic has been forcibly deep-throating him. Sonic.Exe face fucks people to death. I thought we established this. And almost completely, as well as severely damaging the inside of their throats and the chest afterward. And three, the computers ended up broken during the time of the murder, or the screen cracked and the battery's dead. And, okay, Tom is supposed to be a smart guy, so he wouldn't put two and two together with the fucking killings going on and the fucking drained battery from his laptop, and like the batteries on their laptop's dead. This thing that I recently got from my deceased friend seems to be draining the battery on my laptop. I wonder if these two things might be a little bit connected to one another. He doesn't make that leap of logic. Fuck. And this is one of the few times where, okay, it will be a very odd coincidence. It will be a bit of a leap of logic here, but it would at the very least be a correct leap of logic to make. And Tom has not been one who has shied away from doing such the thinking from this fucking thought process before. But now is the one time where he can't make the connection. This guy's supposed to be smart. This is the guy that's gonna fucking find the serial killer for Detective Green and his fucking prop sister? The fuck? Tom didn't want to imagine any possibility of there being any supernatural forces at work, despite the rising amount of evidence to the contrary. Coincidence is not evidence. I know I just went on a rant about him not coming to this conclusion. I'm saying that, but that was more me saying that why he didn't come to the conclusion that would warrant some, I don't know. At least there's some connection there. And, I don't know. This just seemed too ridiculous and perhaps too horrifying for Tom to think about. He always believed that the world we lived in was a world of reason. You fucking dipshit. There was always a justifiable explanation behind every occurrence, event, or action, always a means to an end. Everything had a reason. Hoping to find answers in Kyle's laptop, he returned to his dorm and plugged in the charger to find it. The assembly began about an hour later. Tom, among many other students, looked up at the stage of the atrium. Is that how you pronounce it? While other quietly chatted amongst themselves, as Principal Sullivan, a man who looked to be in his 40s, I almost read that as farties, I don't know why, I guess that's where my mind is, walked up to the podium, a solemn look on his face. Tom could also see Detective Green on the stage as well, standing next to several teachers. "Attention students," Sullivan said before clearing his throat. I'm sure several of you are aware we have lost a most recent and valuable member of our faculty. English teacher Diane Wilkinson, confirmed for dead early this morning, possibly murdered by some unknown assailant, and had her life taken, that had taken the life of one Kyle Scott. Several students chatted in surprise and shock among themselves, while others called out to the stage demanding an explanation. Tom remained silent with his friends, watching the principal quiet the entire student body before continuing his speech. Now I know this seems like quite the terrible shock and tragedy, Sullivan continued, but let's not feel discouraged. We'll have time to mourn the loss of a fellow teacher of this faculty, and I assure you the police are doing everything they can to search for the killer. The one leading the investigation, Detective Green. He gestured to Green to take the stand. Would like to say a few words to you all. Please give him your undivided attention. The principal stepped aside, allowed Green to come up to the podium. Testing the mic, Green began talking. Greetings, everyone. I just want to say that I deeply apologize for the recent couple of tragedies that have taken place. No decent human being should ever have to suffer in such a barbaric manner. To such a barbaric manner, excuse me. Let alone murdered at all. That is why I want to assure you that we're doing everything in our power to find and arrest this person that gets away with any more murders. Before he gets away with any more murders. Even though you are all sleeping, eating, and being educated at this establishment like any other college, the fact still stands, a killer is still out there and you are all not safe. If any of you see anything suspicious, go to any of your teachers that are nearby straight away. Whoever this killer is, he's likely to come back and continue his work, but know that you have the law on your side. We won't rest until we've found and apprehended the murderer. I cannot promise you the guarantee of your safety, but I will promise you this. As long as law exists on this planet, somehow this man will be brought to justice, and it will be certain that he won't hurt another innocent human being ever again. Thank you for your time. A bit too flowery for a police report, whatever. As Green left the podium, Tom felt a strong feeling in his heart as he watched him take his seat. Green's speech brought confidence back to Tom. Yeah, a by the numbers fucking generic ass speech. Like, I feel so fucking safe. When the police were too goddamn inept to post some people at the college to make sure that the killer doesn't come back, or to try and investigate to see if anything had happened in that time. Even though the situation as of right now was troubling, Tom was in no doubt that the chances of the killer succeeding at another death gone slim. Everyone was prepared for his turn this time. That will be all for now, students, Principal Sullivan said. You may all return to your dorm rooms, and remember to be careful. Do you guys think the killer's really gonna come back for another round? Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you with a fucking cactus, you fucking asshole. Just cementing my hatred of you, Vicky. Vicky acts with a tone of deep uncertainty as she, Tom, Roger, and Mike, you don't need to list their names, walk down the hall. Of course he's going to, Mike's calm. He has already ice Kyle and Miss Wilkinson. If he is able to sneak into the school twice, it will be pretty much be a cakewalk the third time. Tom shook his head. Nah, I don't think he's gonna risk it. If everyone's now aware that he's been targeting the college, chances are he's gonna lay low for a while. I'm kind of hoping he shows up so we can catch him. This is a man who has ripped people's jaws open. What the fuck are you gonna do? And wouldn't it be sane if the four of us, actually cat the bastard ourselves? That would be cool, Mike said, grinning, already imagining scenarios in his head. I mean, there is only four of us, and only one of him. Why are you saying... There's only four of you, and only one of you. There are... Plus, I am the class Ugandan warrior, and he'd have to think twice about trying to kill me. I don't think the killer's gonna care if you play college football, Mike, Tom admitted. From what Detective Green's told me, the dude's crazy enough to kill anyone he sees, and from what I see in the Don't say that, Vicky snapped, hugging Mike with a hand on her arm. This creep isn't going anywhere near my Michael. My queen, Mike groaned embarrassedly. Don't worry, guys, Tom assured all three of them as they took a turn home. I'm not gonna let this asshole get to you guys. If it's bad enough Kyle's gone, but I'm gonna see to it that this guy is behind the bars before he lays so much as a finger on any of you. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Tom. Roger said appreciatively, putting a hand on Tom's shoulder. Oh, Tom! Vicky tearfully exclaimed, running over to Tom to hug him. My goodness gracious, Mike said quietly, almost chokingly. You really do know how to move a man with words. Yeah, he knows how to move a man with words by saying, like, don't worry, guys. I'm gonna protect you from the dangerous magical serial killer. Fucking retard. As they reached the dorm, Tom said, anyway, I'm gonna continue playing some more of that weird game Kyle played a lot. Anybody want to watch? Oh, sure, you can count me in, Roger said enthusiastically. My goodness, I will partake, Mike agreed. I wish to see what this freaky game is all about. Nah, I got nothing else better to do. I I kind of need something to help me get through this murderer talk off my mind, so I'm into as like a drowned victim. It's like someone who just heard about a fucking friend of theirs or a neighbor of theirs drowning violently and getting eaten by a shark and then going to watch Jaws. That'll get your mind off of it. Oh, hey, Tom interjected before Tom put his hand on the door. Why not make this a little bit more fun? The classroom for the anime club is still open right now. Why don't we link Tom's laptop to the projector so we can watch this game on the projector screen? Are we allowed to do that? Vicky asked. Probably not, Tom answered, unsure of himself. Ah, come on. He nudged Tom on the shoulder with a slight grin. You're only going to play the game for a little while today, right? We'll be out of the anime club before any devil, has the chance to spot us. Tom thought about it. Perhaps if they were only there for a little while. Alright, I'm sold, Tom stated. Let me go grab my laptop and we can get along. With that, his friends patiently waited as Tom ran to his dorm and grabbed the laptop, and together they set off for the classroom. Okay, this was wank. More shit that doesn't make sense. And it really cements how JC, in terms of, I guess, his grammar and his verbiage has improved to some degree, but his bland and flat characterization has remained stagnant. And I can't wait for these characters to die horribly. If that was JC's intention the whole time, bravo. I really don't root for anyone here to survive, and I find them all dreadfully obnoxious and horribly cringy. So, kudos, my friend. If you want me to hate them, then I really do have to pat you on the back right there. But, we're going to see more of this later on. If you've enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe, and all that nonsense. By the way, before we go off, I would like to actually have it in video. The person who did the gentleman who did my wonderful thumbnail was a gentleman by the name of the Fuzzy Pickler, who is the master of all fan art that me and Sean, or Third of Clubs, receive, and I want to give him a shout out. He doesn't make any stuff on his YouTube channel, but I don't know, just give him some encouragement, give him some compliments, because I want to see him actually go branch out and make his own shit. So that's it. Bye.